All right, his second one then, he says Harris claims that God can use imperative sentences to give us advice or invitation where these acts do not create obligation. All right, so God can give us advice or an invitation, but they don't create an obligation. They don't force us to do something or permit us from doing something, right? So God can give us advice, right? He can tell us, give us some type of advice or an invitation, but he's suggesting that here says that these acts do not create an obligation. And so the issue here then is he says, then how are we to tell which is which? So God is talking now. Is this an advice or is this, a command where he's giving me an obligation? And how do I tell? And he suggests that here it really doesn't give us a way to make that distinction, right? And he says this is an ad hoc loophole that cannot help but lead to ethical minimalism, by which we, or rather by which individuals, since he's trying to, criticize hair here, is only ever bound to the really, really obvious command. So how do we know that this is just an advice or an invitation from God as opposed to a command that God is giving us? And he suggests that here doesn't really help us to understand that, to navigate that distinction there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I, having gone through the Westminster Catechism, and seeing the expounding on just the Ten Commandments in and of itself about both responsibilities and obligations. I don't know what Hare might have written else out there, but as for divine command, I'm pretty sure if you're a divine commandist or ethicist, you're kind of that's going to be a touch point for you to go to, and I know. He's an Anglican for Hare, but I would have to assume that he probably has some unpacking more of the commandments, which would probably lend opportunities to expand upon the not so much what did he call it here it really factors in on a minimalist perspective, because you can say, well, I didn't murder anybody today. But then Jesus comes along and says, if you hate your brother, it's like you've committed murder in your heart. And Westminster divines have kind of expanded upon exactly what the Jewish mentality should have been, Israel's mentality towards the Ten Commandments of understanding that kind of the expressions of Deuteronomy, Numbers, and the Leviticus about building parapets and filling in holes and replacing animals that may have been injured when you borrowed them. All those can be found in the Ten Commandments, and all those can be wrapped up into love God and love your neighbor. And so I would not to speak for Hare and know nothing more about his writing, but I think this is something that could be brought up, but also I would assume that he probably has something on that.
Yeah, it would have been nice if they would have allowed the authors to respond to, to the criticisms of their.
It's always my point with the counterpoint is that it gives the main presenter kind of just like 2 pages of very quick response to kind of shore up any misgivings about what's been written, and
right.
I have answers for this, and you can check out my other books type deal. So.